Today what I thought I'd do was to talk to you about the history of the economic engine of Gainesville, the University of Florida, and a little bit about the relationship between the city and the university in history. The University of Florida was formally founded and moved to Gainesville in 1905, but that was not the first time it had been here. The University of Florida is actually a merging of 4 different schools when it was formed in 1905. And the oldest institution of higher education in the state was an institution called East Florida Seminary. And briefly in the post-Civil War era, it was moved to Gainesville. And if you ever wondered why suddenly the city fathers in 1905 went, ooh, we should have the University of Florida be here, it was because the East Florida Seminary, which was part of what the University of Florida became, had already been here in the 1860s for about a decade. So in 1905, these 4 schools, the largest of which was the Florida Agricultural College up in Lake City, decided to merge, and that was a land-grant college. And that's how the University of Florida became a land-grant college, was that that school that was up in Lake City was already one. So Lake City naturally thought they were going to get the University of Florida, but if you were here a couple of weeks ago when I talked about the music scene and the Thomas Center, Major Thomas and a group of city fathers and the city commission decided that Gainesville was a much better location. So they started a media blitz to bring the University of Florida to Gainesville, and they offered 500 acres of land, which was then west of the city. They offered to extend Alachua Road out to the 500 acres, and that's University Avenue. All of this was done by the city. And last but not least, and relevant today, they promised to give the University of Florida free water in perpetuity. That's how it reads. And that's why Bulwer Springs is a neat place to know about, because that was the water that the University of Florida got. So the University of Florida opened in Gainesville in 1905 with 103 students and all white males. Florida's women got what is now Florida State, and Florida's African Americans got what is now Florida A&M. And the University of Florida remained pretty much all white males. It did open enrollment to mature women of good character in 1924 to be able to take courses that they could not get in Tallahassee. And so there was limited coeducation. And most of those women were in medical fields, if you wanted to know how that happened. The university grew slowly, but World War II gave it a bad hit and then a huge spurt of growth. During the war, nobody went to school. Everyone largely joined the Army. And so the University of Florida offered all of its buildings to the U.S. government for training members of what became the Army Air Corps. That would be my father, actually. That was probably his first trip to Gainesville. So in the 1940s, all the buildings were used by the U.S. government. And after the war, the university became genuinely co-ed in 1947. And part of the reason for that, the University of Florida resisted it, but men coming back from the war on the GI Bill wanted to go to school in Tallahassee. And so when 934 men enrolled up there, the University of Florida said, oh, I guess we got to take women. So in 1947, the university became co-educational. One of the articles I read talked about how easily the University of Florida went through integration, and actually said that the university was integrated in 1958 by its first African American law student. And the first, to wrap this up and bring it back to Gainesville, the first African American undergraduate BA at the University of Florida was awarded in 1965 to a Gainesville resident that many of you knew, Judge Stephen Mickle, who was actually the first African American undergraduate at the University of Florida to get a degree, and that was in 1965. By 1950, there were 10,000 students. By 2015, there were 50,000 students at the University of Florida. And the relationship with the city of Gainesville has been intermittently taxed by that. But as I used to tell my students at Santa Fe, we should all remember that if Gainesville is a plantation, the University of Florida is the big house, and we will always have to deal with it. Thank you.